The following is a continuation of the lecture given by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, recorded on February 24, 2002 in Pune.
When Arjuna frustrated himself with all of his speculative ideas, even though they were based on Shastra, they were based on proper social understanding of Varnashram, nothing he said was wrong. But his attitude was not humble, was not submissive. He didn't come to the conclusion that I do not know anything. The more you think you know, the less you can learn. The less you think you know, the more you can understand. Therefore, the greatest scholars in spiritual subject matters feel that they know nothing. They're simply trying to be humble instruments. Arjuna was really humble. So humble that his mouth was parched with dryness. His entire body became pale. His limbs were trembling, and with tears flowing from his eyes, he said, Karpanya doso pahata svabhava purichami tvam dharma samudacheha. Krishna, I don't know anything. I don't know what is to be done, what is not to be done. I'm bewildered, I'm confused. I am your disciple, you are my spiritual master. Please instruct me. This was not a formality. This was not a matter of curiosity. This is a desperate matter of his survival. We should want to hear from the great souls, understanding our condition, drowning in this ocean of material existence. To learn from them is a matter of our survival. That is how we should approach spiritual masters. That is how we should approach the Vaishnavas and the Holy Scriptures. If we study simply because we want to be learned and have other people see that I'm a very great pundit, I'm a great scholar, I'm spiritually advanced, Yayatamam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamam. Krishna will reward you. He'll make you a famous scholar. He'll have millions of people touch the dust of your feet. You'll have all kinds of dakshinas and all nice gifts. But inside, you'll be in utter poverty. Krishna told Arjuna, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadengshati te jnanam jnanena statadarshana. Beginning of knowledge. First, you have to accept a submissive condition. What does it mean to be submissive? It's not an artificial show. Nothing in the scriptures of the Bhakti Shastras discuss artificial shows. It's talking about a state of heart. To be submissive means to consider yourself inferior, to consider others superior. Not to be blinded by materialistic conceptions. Arjuna was a great warrior, intimate friend of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Krishna did not speak to him till he felt he was the most insignificant. When you feel yourself insignificant, you become submissive. That's the beginning. A devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I want to give up everything. Srila Prabhupada said, what do you have to renounce? Everything belongs to Krishna. You are simply insignificant. That is our position. That was Arjuna's realization. So the first principle of transcendental knowledge is to submit oneself and then to inquire in a humble state of mind. and then to render service. We find the whole process is humility. The grandson of Arjuna, he also lived by this principle. Two most important bhakti shastras were based on the principle of humility. Arjuna humbled himself before Krishna and he spoke Bhagavad Gita to the world. Maharaj Parikshit. When he approached Sukadeva Goswami, he didn't say, "I am the king of all the planet Earth, and I renounced everything for the purpose of self-realization." That's what he did, actually. But what was he thinking in his heart? He prayed to Sukadeva Goswami that he was a Kshatriya Bandhu. He was a unqualified, fallen, so-called Kshatriya. He presented himself to Sukadeva Goswami that I don't know anything. I don't know the purpose of life. I don't know the duty of a man about to die. Although I was put in this position as king, I'm not worthy to be called a descendant of Arjuna and Yudhisthira and these great souls. I'm unqualified, disqualified. I'm very fallen. I'm very lonely. Please save me. That was his attitude. And thus, he was receptive for transcendental knowledge. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the part of a devotee to teach the world. When he approached his spiritual master, he describes this to Shokashananda Saraswati. He said that when I approached my Guru Maharaj told me that you are a great fool. You have no right to study the Vedanta philosophy. You're unqualified. You should simply chant the holy names of Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approached his spiritual master in the mood of a great fool. And he was very, very happy to admit to others what a fool he was in the presence of his spiritual master. When Lord Chaitanya went to Ramkeli, he met Sri Rupan Sanatan, the classic example of how to accept knowledge. Rupan Sanatan were the prime minister, chief minister of the entire kingdom. Most learned scholars, multi-billionaires, they had all material opulences, more than anyone in the world today. And yet, when they approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they had straw between their teeth. When you put straw between your teeth, that's a sign of utter defeat. When you want to beg mercy from someone, you put straw between your teeth. They fell on the ground, weeping and crying in oceans of humility. They were too humble to even stand up. And this was genuine. Mahaprabhu had to lift them up. And then they offered such prayers that we are the most sinful, the most abominable, the most fallen, the most wretched. You will not find in the entire creation of Brahma anyone more abominable than us. We're more sinful than Jagai and Madhai. Although Jagai and Madhai may have committed every type of sinful activities, they were Brahmins from Navadvip, and they never served malechas and yovanas. But our life has simply been spent menial servants of malechas and yavanas carrying out their orders. Therefore, we are the most despicable. We have no qualifications to receive your mercy. but you are our only hope. For us to expect your mercy is like a small dwarf expecting to touch the moon with his hand. But still, you are Patita Pavan Avatar. You have descended to deliver the most fallen. And we believe that your glory for this incarnation will really be fulfilled if you give your mercy to us due to our fallen condition. This is how they approach their spiritual master. This is how they approach the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada explains that it wasn't imitation. It wasn't ritualistic. It wasn't a formality. It was the genuine expression of their heart. How is this possible? Rupa and Sanatan never committed a sinful activity in their entire life, and they're considering themselves the most sinful. Rupa and Sanatan, the only reason they took the post of the ministers of the Nawab Hussain Shah was a service to society so the Nawab would not persecute and torture the devotees. But they considered that they were in that situation simply due to their great passion for position and power and wealth. This is the inconceivable nature of a Vaishnava. They were the most learned scholars. When Sanatan Goswami approached Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Varanasi, he fell at his feet. He said, I'm the most fallen, the most sinful, and I'm totally ignorant. And the worst thing is because I know some scriptures, people call me a learned pundit, and I am such a cheater that I believe them. But I don't know who I am, or where I'm going, or why I'm suffering these threefold miseries of material existence. Therefore, falling in an ocean of lamentation, I'm begging you, please instruct me. Thus, Srila Prabhupada says, humility is the beginning of knowledge. And without humility, knowledge of this absolute truth is simply impossible. And according to our humility, according to our submissiveness, Krishna and the great souls are inclined to bestow their mercy and reveal the highest truths to us. We read about that Rupa Kaviraj. He was blessed by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Guru's godbrother, by his own instructing Guru, Sri Krishna Charan Chakravarti. He was given so much wisdom, so much knowledge. And then the most intimate associate and disciple of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Mukundadas, bestowed so much kindness, love, and transcendental knowledge upon him. But then he became proud. And he offended Krishna Priya Devi, the daughter of Ganga Narayan Chakravarti. And because of that offense, he became totally bewildered. He still had all this knowledge in his head, but no understanding, no realization. He used all that incredible knowledge he was given by others to concoct a bogus, cheating philosophy to guide other people to hell. He had everything but humility, and therefore everything became null and void from the spiritual point of view. Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis, we cannot imitate them. How they could have so much, be so great, and think themselves so small. That should be our goal of life, to think like them. Not to achieve some high position where people will honor us. Srila Prabhupada, he describes how he began the process of transcendental knowledge by being defeated by his Guru Maharaj. This is in the line of Rupan Sanatan. At number 1 Ultadunga Junction Road in Calcutta, Srila Prabhupada first met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada told Srila Prabhupada, before he even got up from his obeisances, "You are intelligent, young man. Take this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spread it throughout the world in the English language." Srila Prabhupada was in the role of Arjuna. He presented so many arguments that we are dependent, and every one of his arguments would be thoroughly accepted by everyone in the entire country of India except one man, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That we're a dependent nation. First we should assist Gandhiji in getting freedom from the British rule. No, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. All these political changes are always taking place. The eternal reality is devotion to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada would regularly tell his disciples with such a glad heart, "I was defeated by my Guru Maharaj, and I was very happy." This was Srila Prabhupada's pride, that he was defeated by his Guru Maharaj. What does that mean? That means he was proud of his Guru. He was eternally grateful to be in a subordinate position to his spiritual master. And in an ocean of humility, every word that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur spoke, Srila Prabhupada accepted as his life and soul. Thus, the first principle of humility Srila Prabhupada teaches, that it is the essential beginning on the path of bhakti, the essential beginning for transcendental knowledge. Srila Prabhupada also defines humility from another point of view, that humility means to not be anxious, to find the satisfaction of being honored by others. This seems quite impossible, does it not? But this is humility. Prithu Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, he came out of the body of Maharaj Vena with his consort Archi, and the great sages and rishis and brahmins began to offer beautiful prayers to him as an avatar of the Lord. And Prithu wouldn't listen to a single word they said. He said, "Why are you saying all these false prayers? I haven't done anything yet. I just got here." Now for the rest of us, we're very eager to take credit for things we haven't done. And we're very, very much adamant that no one should blame us for something that we didn't do, or even something that we did do. This is human nature. We want to take credit for what we haven't done, and we want to give the blame to others for things that we have done. Factually, according to Gita, prakrite kriyamanani gunai karamani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma karataha iti manyate. Anything good, you didn't do it. Krishna has empowered you. So why should we take credit? But still, there is that deep thirst to be honored by others. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur graphically taught how we should see the process of being honored by others. He said the desire for pratishta, for honor and recognition, a devotee should see it as abominable as the stool of a boar. For those of you who have analytically studied the nature of stool, There is nothing worse than a boar stool. The devotee eats prasad and he passes stool. So that's somehow coming from prasad. But still we consider it abominable. Now a boar eats other people's stool. And that becomes stool. How much would any of you like for lunch today? A big bowl full of boar stool. But we're eager to eat that stuff 24 hours a day. Because the honor and the respect that we try to enjoy is more abominable than boar stool for the soul. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was living in Puri, he was heavily chastised and criticized by Ramchandra Puri. Ramchandra Puri was saying about Lord Chaitanya that he's a bogus sannyasi, he's a sense enjoyer, he's a hypocrite. He pretends to be very renounced, but in secret places he's enjoying sense gratification. The devotees were outraged. But Lord Chaitanya, he said, no, what he is saying is correct. I should cut my prasadam taking in half. He's like my father. He's my well-wisher. He's teaching me very nice things. He didn't defend himself when he was attacked. He was humble. Madhavendra Puri, he could not tolerate being honored and respected. We know the story from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He would actually run and hide when people would try to honor him. When Gopinath stole the kheer for him, it became public information. Everyone in Orissa was thinking, who is this Madhavendra Puri that Gopinath has stole kheer for? He must be such a great soul. They were going to honor him. They were going to have a festival for him in Remuna. So what did he do? Without saying anything to anyone, he secretly disappeared. And everywhere he went, people had heard about him. So he would just keep hiding and disappearing. Until finally he came to Puri. And even in Jagannath Puri they heard his glories. When he went to the Jagannath temple, somehow or other they found out he was Madhavendra Puri. And then he was thinking, somehow or other, if I can use this honor and respect in Thakurji's service, then there's some value. So they were willing to do anything for the great Madhavendra Puri. If you so desire, some sandalwood, some camphor. So he wanted no honor for himself. But when it came, he was willing to accept it only for the purpose of devotional service, not for himself. Similarly, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, when that great Digvijay Pandit Rupa Narayan came to Vrindavan, this man was such an egomaniac. He traveled throughout all of India defeating people in debate, and they had to sign his Vijay Patra. Whole list of all the pundits he defeated. And you know how hard it was for those pundits to sign their names? That means discredit. They were defeated. So he went to Rupa and Sanatan, hearing that they were the greatest scholars of Vrindavan. And they very humbly, meekly said to Rup Narayan, actually, this is all propaganda. We're not very learned. We're no match for you. We don't even want to waste your time. We're insignificant in our scholarship in relationship to you. Just give us the Vijay Patra and we will sign it. They signed it. They didn't care what people thought about them. They had no desire for honor or prestige. They were humble. But Jiva Goswami, he was also equally humble. But to defend Rupa and Sanatan's prestige, he was willing to have debate and defeated him. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Lokanath Goswami, great crest jewels of humility, who had no anxiety to find the satisfaction of being honored by others. When all the Vaishnavas blessed Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to write Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, they knew that this would be the classic literature for all time to come, describing the glories of the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, which one of you here today would find satisfaction in being somewhere in that book? For all time to come, you're seen as an intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya. When Kaviraj Goswami was taking blessings from every devotee, Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Lokanath Goswami both said, "We will give you blessings under one condition. You do not mention our names or say anything about us." That was their humility. They were two of the most prominent, topmost Vaishnavas in all of Braj Bhumi. But they wanted no honor, no respect, no prestige, no reputation. They simply wanted to serve. But in their hearts, they actually felt that they were disqualified to be spoken of in the same book as Lord Chaitanya and his other associates. They felt ashamed to be identified with the association of such persons as Rupa and Sanatan. This is humility. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he emphasized more than anything else, Trinarapi Sunichena Taror Iba Sahishnana Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that this is the Siddha Pranali mantra for the Gaudiya Mat. By understanding the depths of this verse and applying it to our life, the eternal Leela of Vrindavan, our eternal relationship with Krishna in Vrindavan will be revealed. Srila Prabhupada explains very emphatically on many occasions why Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur instituted this particular type of sannyas into the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Please try to understand. Sometimes people want to take sannyas so that they'll get prestige and honor as being something great. But actually, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur established sannyas for a very different reason. From the time of Sri Rupa and Sanatan, the highest order in the Gaudiya Mat was the Paramhamsa Babaji stage. And this was followed by such great souls as Narottam Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. They dressed in the simple robes of Paramhamsa. See, there's 4 stages of sannyas. There's Kutichak, Bahudak, Parivrajacharya, and Paramhamsa. Paramhamsa is the state of the highest realization and liberation. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he saw with his eyes that practically the whole sampradaya coming from the Lord, the so-called Babajis or Paramhamsas, were addicted to all kinds of sense gratification and misconceptions. They were cheating people. Srila Prabhupada, while describing this reality, he said to the devotees, you know Gopinath Bazaar? You go to Gopinath Bazaar in Vrindavan. You will find so many Paramhamsa Babajis smoking bidis. Not only that, but there's a bidi shop where the Babajis are making bidis, manufacturing them so that they can get money to smoke more bidis. And he said at Radha Kund, so many of these Paramhamsa Babajis are having illicit sex with women, and taking intoxications. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not want to associate his leaders with these types of people. And he was thinking that Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he was a genuine, real Paramhamsa. He was Babaji. And Thakur Bhakti Vinod, at the final stage of his life, he accepted the Paramhamsa Vesha Babaji. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so humble. He felt, I cannot accept the same role that they did. I cannot. This is what Prabhupada describes. Therefore, he took a lower form of sannyas, Parivrajagacharya. For two reasons. One is so that we would not be identified with the bogus Paramhamsas. And most of all, that we should take a humble position. Sannyas means a humble position. It's within the Varnashram circle. So he established the Tridanda as an expression of humility and for the purpose of keeping all people in his Gaudiya Mat, in the renounced order, in a humble position. That is humility. Not wanting honor, wanting service. He told us that this Tridanda means body, mind, words, and life exclusively in the spirit of service to Krishna and his devotees. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was sitting on Vyasasan during his Vyas Puja, there's a famous lecture he gave. He said that he feels like a dog sitting on that Vyasasan. What you must all be thinking, this brute, this animal, sitting in a higher position than the rest of us. So humble. He expressed, it is only for your benefit. I may be the most fallen, but somehow you have asked me to represent Vyasadev, so I am sitting here. He didn't want honor, he only wanted service. Srila Prabhupada was in that spirit. In 1972 in New Vrindavan, I remember he was saying the same message during his Vyas Puja. That you people may be thinking, why is this man sitting in this high position, accepting so much honor and so many gifts? He said, it's not for me. We're simply the humble representative, servant of all others. That was Prabhupada's mood. And he proved it. When he was in Australia, people were saying very critical words against him from the audience because he was sitting on a high, nicely upholstered seat. So the next day he told the devotees, I'll sit on the floor and give my katha. The devotee said, what? He said, no, people are not appreciating this. I will sit on the floor. What does that mean? Srila Prabhupada was only taking the position not to be honored, not to be respected, but simply to serve. Whatever was the best position for him to be in, to render humble service to the conditioned souls and to his spiritual master, that was the position he would take. Amanina manadena. He did not want any honor, no respect. If you want honor, you don't deserve honor. If you don't want honor, you deserve honor. Who can understand this philosophy? Materially, it's so contradictory and inconceivable. Srila Prabhupada explains. Please listen carefully. If one acts acts and speaks in a very humble fashion. But that person does not show respect to Krishna, to the spiritual master, and to all Vaishnavas, then that is simply a false show of humility. Another quality of humility, Prabhupada explains, that if one actually has a real relationship with Krishna, then that devotee will feel within his or her heart that they do not even have a single drop of love for Krishna. If you think you have love for Krishna, to that extent, your relationship with Krishna is very far away. This was exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. While living in Navadvip, one day he was walking along the bank of the Ganga, and some materialistic people began to criticize the path of devotional service. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu walked away from them and went to the house of Srivas Thakur, where he said, I have just heard criticism of Krishna and his devotees. Purify my heart by beginning Harinam Sankirtan. They began to chant. Mahaprabhu stopped the kirtan and said, I feel no love in my heart. And ultimately, he just ran out the door, jumped in the Ganges, went underwater to take his own life. Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu seeing his condition, he was weeping, he was crying, he just ran to the Ganges to end his life. They jumped in after him. One grabbed his hair, one grabbed his feet, and somehow or other they took the beautiful form of Lord Gauranga and placed him on the bank of the Ganga. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so depressed. He said, why did you do that? Why did you take me out of the Ganga? And Nityananda Prabhu was just trembling in fear. He said, my Lord, why did you try to take your life? The Lord said, because I have no love for Krishna. What is the use of living? I have no love for Krishna. If I even had one single drop of love for Krishna, I would have died long ago due to separation from Krishna. But the fact that my heart still beats, the fact that there is still breath in my lungs, that means I do not even have one drop of love for Krishna. So why should I live? That was his heart. That was his feeling. That was his humility. Srila Sanatana Goswami, when he was traveling through Jarikhanda forest, he drank some water and got a horrible disease where there were itching, oozing sores all over his body. He didn't mind the pain, but he considered that he was just such an abominable person. He considered that he had no love for Krishna. He decided within his heart that since my spiritual life is non-existent, since my body is useless to offer any proper service to the Lord, what is the use of this life? He made a plan. During Ratha Yatra, I will throw this body under the wheels of the chariot of Jagannath, and in the presence of Mahaprabhu and all of his devotees chanting Harinam Sankirtan, I will end this body. And in that situation, maybe in my next birth, something auspicious will come. This was his feeling. The Sambandha Guru of our Sampradaya, feeling he does not even have a single drop of love for Krishna. How could one think like that when one is in the ecstasy of love? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exhibiting the sattvika bhavas. Sanatana Goswami was on the highest level of Vrindavan Ras. how they feel that they have no love. Even in Goloka Vrindavan, even Srimati Radharani, sometimes she prays with tears in her loves that she has not even a drop of love for Krishna. How is it possible? Because the more we understand the glory of Krishna, the more we realize how much love we should be offering to Krishna. What an unlimited reservoir of loving qualities he has. The more we realize that our love is insignificant. The greatest devotional activities we can do is hardly offering a little tiny candle to the sun. What is the significance? Who are we? What is our love? This is the realization of Krishna. Simultaneous to the realization of the greatness and the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes the realization of our insignificance, our inability to properly reciprocate with His unlimited mercy. And thus the great souls, they pray in this way. And Srila Prabhupada says, one who has a relationship with Krishna feels that he has not even a single drop of love of Krishna in his heart. One who has humility is very eager to accept menial service in the spirit of the servant of the servant of the servant. This is a very essential quality of humility. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, when he was in Gaya, he cooked for his spiritual master, Ishwara Puri. He personally served his spiritual master. He massaged the feet of his spiritual master. He was eager and happy to be a menial servant. And while in Navadvip, sometimes he would wash the clothes of his devotee. A very low position in Indian society. The clothes washers. What are they called? Dhobi? Yes. He was dhobi for his devotees, washing their clothes. He saw one of his devotees carrying something, let me carry it home for you. If he saw them bathing in the Ganges, he would bring tilak for them. He would bring a sitting place for them. Every type of menial service he was eager to render to his devotees. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw King Prataparudra sweeping the street, taking the menial position of the street sweeper, Mahaprabhu's heart melted. He forbade King Prataparudra. He forbade him to come into his association. But when he saw the king was a menial street sweeper, a servant of the Lord and his devotees, his heart melted. And he decided right then and there he would give his complete mercy to King Prataparudra. When King Prataparudra was sweeping the street, he wasn't doing it as a ritualistic show. You see, it is the tradition since the time of Maharaj Prataparudra, and even his father, that part of Ratha Yatra is the king comes and sweeps in front of the cart of Jagannath. But please know that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't just see what you're doing with your hands and your feet. He sees the heart. He was looking right into the heart of Maharaj Prataparudra. That he was expressing the actual sense of identity that he had. Although he was big king sitting on big throne, in his heart of hearts, he always considered himself at all times the most menial servant of the Lord and his devotees. And he wanted to express that before Lord Jagannath by taking the most insignificant, lowly of all services, a street sweeper. Srila Prabhupada explains in this regard, the ultimate aspiration a devotee has is to be the menial servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. And Mahaprabhu fulfilled all King Prataparuja's desires. In that garden near the Ayatota of the Gundicha Mandir, Mahaprabhu allowed King Prataparuja to massage him. He embraced him. He bathed him with his tears. He showed him his divine opulences. He praised him. Then he asked King Prataparuja, "You have given me so much nectar. Who are you?" King Prataparuja spoke from the heart. He didn't identify himself as Maharaj Prataparuja, so why should he say that? He said, "I am the menial servant of your servants. And the only benediction I pray for is I may eternally aspire to be the menial servant of your servants." Srila Prabhupada explains, when we pray for this honestly, then Krishna will take our prayers actually seriously. That is how we please the Lord. Not by trying to be great, but by trying to be a menial servant of the great. That is greatness in the eyes of God. Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, when they were living in Ramkeli, such fabulous wealth, they built a gigantic, opulent assembly hall just to invite Vaishnavas and Pandits to come and discuss Srimad Bhagavatams and other types of philosophy. And amongst all the great Pandits and scholars, they were foremost. They made such arrangements. They personally, with their wealth, built huts and cottages, very, very nice residences for every one of their guests, and arranged nice prasad. Whatever wealth they had, they understood the only real value of it is to what extent we can serve the Vaishnavas. All the rest was simply a burden. Chaitanya Das, the father of Srinivasacharya, explained to Srinivas one of the most heart-moving experiences of his life. He told how years before, his Guru Maharaj took him to Ramkeli to meet Rupa and Sanatan. He said at that time they were Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik, chief ministers of the king. Such wealth. He said they were sitting on raised seats. They were both more beautiful than Cupid himself. They had the wealth of Indra, the intelligence of Brihaspati, and so many thousands of people were coming just to be with them and hear from them. But Rupa and Sanatan, they were just eager to hear from the other Vaishnavas. They would sit at the feet of the other Vaishnavas to listen. And even when they were on the asana speaking, if even just an insignificant guest would come, they would get down from their asana, they would come over to them, they would offer their obeisances to them, they would menially serve them by giving them prasad, by giving them accommodation, by giving them gifts. He said this is an impossible thing to find in this world. People who have so much but who think themselves so small. It's said that a pauper is even proud of his penny. What to speak of Rup Sanatan, Dabir Khas, Sakar Malik, what they had, everything. But still, there was not a trace of false pride, only a desire to humbly serve all others. Jiva Goswami, Prabhupada explains he was the greatest philosopher that ever lived. He already defeated Digvijay Pandits. In Varanasi, the high seat of learning in India, for the Mayavads, he was considered the greatest scholar in all of Varanasi. Then he came to Vrindavan. And he became menial servant of Rupa Goswami. He would massage his feet. He would clean his utensils. He would arrange the puja paraphernalia for him. He would go out and pick particular types of palm leaves and prepare them for his Guru Maharaj to write his books on. When his Guru Maharaj would be sitting, he would fan him. Most menial services. And one time when he honestly, for no other reason than trying to defend the integrity of his spiritual master, Rupa Goswami told him that you are full of pride. When that Rup Narayan was defeated by Jiva Goswami, he had no desire except to protect the dignity of Rupa and Sanatan and Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So he defeated him. Rupa Goswami said, "Why did you argue with that rascal? That means you still have pride. You still want to be victorious. You still have a sense of wanting to be important. In Vrindavan, there is no place for that. Get out." He didn't defend himself. He considered, yes, I'm full of pride. Yes, I'm most fallen. I'm offensive. I'm thinking myself important. And he went to Nandaghat, and there he performed severe austerities to try to atone for his offenses, although he never did anything wrong. But he accepted it. And Rupa Goswami wanted to show the world through his disciple what is real humility. Menial servant. Narottam Das Thakur, when he went to Vrindavan, Lokanath Goswami, he was so humble, he did not want disciples, he wouldn't let people serve him. So Narottam Das Thakur, secretly he would serve him. He was willing to go on doing this for the rest of his life. Early in the morning, he would go to the place where Lokanath Goswami would respond to the calls of nature and clean it very nicely, for his Guru Maharaj would not be inconvenienced. He would sweep the place. He would, with his own hands, clean the stool and urine. And nobody in the entire creation knew that he was doing this. He wasn't advertising. He actually was a menial servant. And one day Lokanath Goswami is so moved by who is the humble person that's doing this. He actually, hours before he usually came, he was hiding in the bushes to see who. And there he saw, very quietly, Narottam in the darkness of the night, picking up his urine and stool, cleaning the area, washing the area. Lokanath Goswami, he was astonished. He began to cry tears. He said, "Narottam, you are a prince. You're coming from royalty. You're a great scholar. How could you be doing this? Cleaning the stool and urine with your hands? Why?" Narottam Das Thakur spoke the humility of his heart, with all honesty, that, "Dear Guru Maharaj, I have left all the illusory wealth and prestige of this world to come here to Vrindavan, where I have found the ultimate of all treasures, humble menial service to my spiritual master." Lokanath Goswami said, "Why you're serving me? Why you want me to be your guru? You already had the darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He embraced you. He filled you with his love. Narottam Das Thakur said, I have nothing, I have no love. My only shelter and my only hope is in the dust of your lotus feet. That is humility. Srila Prabhupada exhibited that humility of menial servant. He left the ultimate spiritual kingdom of Vrindavan Dham to come to New York City. When he was living in the Bowery, one person, what was his name, Robert Nelson? One day I was talking to him and he was telling me, this is when before 26 Second Avenue or anything. Prabhupada would just sit in the back of Dr. Mishra's yoga lessons and he would meet people. And that's where he met this Robert Nelson. And he said Prabhupada would want to cook for him. Now, for those of you who know him, with all respect, he's really spaced out. By material qualifications, you really have to be a mystic yogi to see any in him. Just like some of Prabhupada's godbrothers said, when they came to the West, they were trying to preach to the elite in society. Well, I can say that this person is not at all the elite in society. He was, by all standards, materialistically just a failure. Not much intelligence, spaced out, kind of dirty and lazy kind of person. But Srila Prabhupada would personally go out and buy food at the grocery store. He would cook for him. He would serve him prasad. He would clean up after him. And then he would just lay on his left side with him and talk about Krishna. He'd give him Bhagavad Kathas. Such a servant. At 26 Second Avenue at the beginning, Srila Prabhupada would do the purchasing, he would do all the cooking, he would do all the serving, and then he would do all the cleaning of the pots, the plates, and the room itself. And nobody even thought. One day, some of the guests stayed a little later, and they happened to see Prabhupada cleaning everything. They asked, Swamiji, all these weeks we've been coming, you're cleaning all of our dishes and cleaning the floor and cleaning everything for us? And Prabhupada never said a word. He was quiet. And then his guest said, can we help you, Swamiji? And Prabhupada smiled and said, I've been waiting for someone to ask that question. He was 70 years old at that time. 71, actually. And these were all people in their 20s. He was simply accepting the role of their menial servant. And that's the only consciousness he ever had. Even when he was sitting on a Vyasasana and giving international instructions for an international movement, he was in the same spirit. He was simply rendering menial service according to the best way to serve his Guru Krishna and all of his disciples in the world according to time, place, and circumstance. Whether he's washing his disciples' plates, and whether he's chastising him and telling him an instruction of how to preach. Whether he's sitting on the floor or sitting on Vyasasana. He was simply the menial servant of every living being. That is Vaishnava. That is Acharya. That is Srila Prabhupada. Another quality Srila Prabhupada describes of humility is that one considers oneself the most fallen. One considers oneself insignificant. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from Gaya, he went to the house of Sukumbar Brahmachari. Sriman Pandit told the devotees that Lord Chaitanya wants you all to come there because he wants to reveal the sorrow of his heart. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just weeping, crying, saying, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? At one point he fell on a pillar and slid down and went unconscious. Then when he came to consciousness, he asked Sukumbar Brahmachari, "Is there anyone here?" He said, "Your friend Gadadhar Pandit, he is here." Lord Chaitanya went to Gadadhar Pandit with tears flowing like incessant rivers from his eyes, tears of humility. He said, "Gadadhar, you are so great. Your life is so glorious. From your very birth you have been worshipping Krishna with your heart and soul. But I am so unfortunate that throughout my life I simply uselessly wasted my existence in the pursuit of mundane studies. But then, by the causeless mercy of Lord Krishna, he revealed himself to me. I saw his form. But then, due to my previous sinful, bad karmas, the Lord disappeared. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Please tell me, show me, where is Krishna?" He was weeping and crying in separation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us that the best and safest method of developing Krishna consciousness is by cultivating feelings of separation. Why? Feelings of being with Krishna in a premature state creates a sense of false pride. That I'm very great, I'm very advanced, I'm seeing Krishna, I'm with Krishna. But actually to feel separation means humility. That because I have no qualification, because I have no love, because I have no spiritual substance, I can't see Krishna. I can't find Krishna. That was the mood of the 6 Goswamis. He Radhe Brajadeva Ke Chalalite He Nanda Shuno Kutha. Where are you, Radharani? Where are you, Krishna? Are you at Bamsivat? Are you at Govardhan? Are you at Radha Kund? Are you at the bank of the Jamuna? Srinivasacharya says this is how they spent their lives, searching for Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada explains this cultivation of separation cultivates humility. If you're proud, you can't actually feel real separation from Krishna. You have to feel yourself empty. Sunyayatam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. This is Mahaprabhu. This is his teaching. That this entire creation is a dreary void, bereft of the vision of Govinda. He is teaching his disciples to cultivate this humility. Haridas Thakur, how he considered himself the most fallen. While living in Fuliyagram, Sri Advaita Prabhu honored him as the greatest Brahman by giving him the first honors of the Shraddha-patra. But did he tell anyone that? When someone would call him a low-down malecha, did he say, "What? Don't you know? Didn't you read the news? Advaitacharya gave me first Shraddha. He honored me as the greatest Brahman in all of Nadia." He never said that. He felt ashamed. I don't deserve this. When he went to Puri, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was meeting all the devotees in the Gambhira. And Haridas Thakur, he didn't even come in. He was out in the dirt of the road offering his obeisances. And he just laid there. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he asked, "Where is Haridas?" Someone said, "He's out there. Don't you see him? He's down the road, just laying in the dust." Lord Chaitanya said, "Bring him here." The devotees went and said, "The Lord wants you to come." Haridas said, "I cannot come. How can I come into his room? How can I be with all these great devotees? I'm just the lowly, untouchable, contaminated dog." So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came out of his Gambhira to meet Haridas Thakur. He was so humble, he wouldn't even come before the Lord. The Lord had to come to him. That is the power of humility. It attracts Krishna. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself arranged the residential quarters for Haridas Thakur at Siddhabakula, a place where he could peacefully do his bhajan and he could see the chakra atop Jagannath's temple. It is described when the Lord would have utsavs with his devotees. They would all be sitting and having prasad. Haridas Thakur, as well as Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they would never come in to take prasad with the other devotees. They considered themselves too fallen. Lord Chaitanya would call them, come in, come in. All the devotees would say, come in. They would say, no, no. They would make excuses. We've already eaten. We're very fallen. We will just sit outside in the dirt, and whatever remnants comes, we will accept. Then the devotees saw that their humility was so genuine, they accepted that. They would sit outside, and Lord Chaitanya was so pleased with their humility, the whole plate of his remnants, he would tell Govinda, give it to Haridas and Rupa Goswami. During the Mahaprakash in Srivas Thakur's house, after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described with great ecstasies the glories of Haridas Thakur and revealed his opulences of Sham Sundar to him, he asked Haridas, accept a boon, please take a boon. Haridas Thakur, tears flowing from his eyes, folded palms, he prayed that I'm the most fallen. The worst thing about me is I have a great longing in my heart to be seen as an important person. That is my hypocrisy. That is my sinful condition. Although I'm insignificant, I want people to think that I'm important. If you want to grant me a boon, my Lord, please give me this boon. Let me take my next birth as a dog or an insect in the house of your devotee. Because then I will get the remnants of their Mahaprasad and I will always have their association. In this state of consciousness, my Lord, let me always chant your holy names. The devotees were weeping. This is all they wanted. Let me be an insect or a dog, but let me have the association of your devotees, and let me have the remnants of the food that falls from their mouth. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to his room, the day before Haridas left his body, he told the Lord, I'm diseased. I can't finish my rounds. I have one desire. Let this useless body fall down in your presence, chanting your name with your feet upon my heart and my eyes seeing your moon-like face. Lord Chaitanya, he was heartbroken. He said, Haridas, you are my principal associate. You're my life and soul. What will this world be without your association? Haridas Thakur said, my Lord, why are you creating this illusion? If one insect dies, what is the loss to this universe? Similarly, if an insignificant fallen soul like me dies, what is the loss to the universe? This is the mystery of humility. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu already honored Haridas Thakur as the Namacharya, the Acharya of the Yuga Dharma of this age of Kali. And yet he's considering himself less significant than an insect. Trinadapi sunichena tarori vasahishnana amani namana dena kirtaniya sadardi. It is because of this consciousness of humility of Haridas that he could constantly chant the holy names.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
When Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami came to Puri, they lived with Srila Haridas Thakur. And none of them would go even with an attempt to enter Jagannath's temple. Inconceivable. I know people from Western countries who disguise themselves to try to get in. But Rupa and Sanatan, they were born of Saraswat Brahmin families from Karnataka. Highest prestigious position as far as caste. They were learned scholars. They were empowered disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But they considered themselves malechas and yavanas. They never once attempted to go into Jagannath's temple because from the earnest feelings of their heart, they felt unqualified. They felt that they would contaminate the atmosphere if they came in. The other devotees would meet Lord Chaitanya in Gambhira. Haridas Thakur, Rupa and Sanatan never even entered Gambhira. They consider themselves too fallen. Although Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally coronated in his own transcendental way Rupa Goswami to be the acharya of our whole sampradaya, he felt himself the lowest of the low. Srila Sanatan Goswami, we have explained in Jarikanda, he wanted to just end his life. He considered himself so abominable by throwing his body under the chariot of Jagannath. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew his heart. He said, Sanatan, why are you a thief? My Lord, can you explain? He said, it is the nature of a thief to destroy another person's property. You have already surrendered your body to me. How dare you think you have a right to destroy my property? I have many things I want to fulfill through you. So Sanatan Goswami was thinking, the Lord is not pleased with my idea to take my life. In fact, suicide is utterly forbidden in our Vaishnava Sampradaya. It is a great offense because we have no right to destroy the property of Krishna. Krishnadas Kaviraj explains the supreme, unparalleled nature of Sanatan Goswami's humility in this particular passage from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he called Sanatan Goswami to come and join him for lunch prasad. He was at the Yamala Gardens near the ocean. So Sanatan Goswami had two ways he could go. One is by crossing the street in front of the Singhadwaram, the Lion Gate of Jagannath Temple. That means going through the town and getting there. The other was going along the seashore. But it was the month of April, May. And it was noontime. Scorching heat. The sand was like fire. And he never wore shoes. As he was walking along the sand, his feet became blistered. He arrived when Lord Chaitanya was taking rest after prasad, but the remnants of his Maha Prasad was waiting for Sanatan. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and met Sanatan, he saw his feet. They were all discolored, blistered. He said, Sanatan, what happened to you? By which way did you come? Did you come by the Singhadwaram? Sanatan said, I came by the way of the seashore. Lord Chaitanya said, no one can do that. It's impossible. That sand is like blazing coals. Look at your feet. Why didn't you come by Singadwaram? Sanatan was silent. He didn't say a word. But in his heart, he was thinking that so many of the pujaris of Jagannath's temple is coming in and out of the Singadwaram. If I happen to come near one or somehow accidentally touch one, because I'm such an untouchable person, then they will come in and make their offerings to Jagannath in the contaminated state of touching me, and it will be a great offense. So not wanting to take the chance of contaminating others, he accepted such inhuman, excruciating pain. But actually, because Sanatana Goswami was so eager to see Lord Chaitanya, he didn't even feel the pain on his feet. That is humility. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, this Paramhamsa, highest state of transcendental realization. Of all the Vaishnavas, they selected him to be the one to write Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Knowing his purity, knowing his unparalleled love of God, his scholarship, his humility, they chose and empowered him. But what does he think of himself? He writes, I am suffering boils due to envy. And I'm suffering terrible disease due to my sins. In this helpless, desperate condition, I am falling at the feet of the supreme physician, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and begging for shelter. I am lower than the worms in stool, more fallen than Jagai and Madhai. If anyone hears my name, they lose their piety. If anyone speaks my name, they become sinful. Our beloved Srila Prabhupada says that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is not just presenting some poetry. He is revealing the inner content of his heart.